After a 3-day business trip, I came home to find my husband and his secretary's ultrasound report. When I followed him to a villa, he was already pointing a gun at me. Amara's provide the sonogram on Luca's desk was the first thing I noticed when I came home to an empty house with a note scribbled in Casey's handwriting. Pot for our future. I didn't need to read it twice to feel my stomach churn. It was like a punch to the gut as I picked up the image. My hand trembled while I stared at the blur that Casey had labeled. Much darter child. I was away for 3 days dealing with Senecate matters, endless meetings, hard negotiations, and keeping things together. But this was what I came home to. I had bled for this family, his family. I thought that was enough. The staff avoided my eyes like they knew. Everyone knew but me. They were all in on the lie, and I was the last to find out, as always. I didn't ask the butler, but Davenport confirmed it anyway when I cornered him. The Don and Miss Casey are spending the evening at the cabin. My ma'am, he had muttered, avoiding my gaze as though looking at me would burn him alive. I gripped the steering wheel tighter as the anger quickly crawled under my skin like poison, making my fingers itch at the gun on the passenger seat, gleaming under the flickering streetlights like an invitation to end this madness right now. But I didn't, not yet, not now. I blinked back the tears that began to burn my eyes as I slammed the brakes when I reached the cabin and stepped out. All I could feel was the pain in my chest, the betrayal like a fresh wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. I didn't knock. I didn't care. I kicked the door open and barged in. Casey was the first thing I saw, sitting comfortably on the couch in a robe that used to belong to me. Her legs were curled up, her smug face frozen in shock as she turned to face me, only to be greeted by my gun aimed squarely at her head. Don't move, I snarled, stepping further into the room. I didn't know if I could hold it together much longer. I wanted to scream, to thrash the place, to kill. Flankative's voice rang out. Amara. He stood at the bar holding a glass of wine, also clad in a robe, and God knows what they had been doing hours before I arrived. Unbidden, the image of them tangled together flashed in my head, and a tear rolled down my cheek, which I quickly wiped as my finger hovered at the trigger. Luca didn't seem surprised, rather looked irritated at my presence, as if I disturbed a damn honeymoon. What is this, Luca? My voice cracked, the words coming out like a sob. I didn't care, I couldn't care. You hide away here with her playing house while I paused, holding back a sob, swallowing the lump in my throat. You were upset, but this isn't how we handle things? Don't you dare tell me how to handle this, I hissed. Amber, was this your plan all along, to humiliate me, to replace me? Luca, Casey trembled. I could see the fear in her eyes, but I wasn't backing down. I wasn't going to let her play the victim here. She moved then, trying to rush toward Luca. Move 1 more inch, Casey, I warned, my grip tightening on the gun. I will give you exactly what you deserve. Her eyes went wide, panic flooding her face, and I didn't hesitate when she didn't listen, and took it as I squeezed the trigger, the loud bang of the gun echoing through the room. The bullet missed her by inches, but it shattered the vase sitting on the table behind her with a deafening crash. Casey screamed, her hands flying up in front of her face in a desperate attempt to protect herself, but the damage was done. Amara, Luca shouted, and when I turned to him, he already had a gun aimed at me. I froze, not from fear of death, but in disbelief that the husband I had devoted my life to had his gun pointed at me, willing to kill me for his mistress.